Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to How to Own the Virtual Room and Deliver a Standout Presentation. I'm Vinny Civitello, Communications Manager for the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. With us today is Casey Carpenter of Speak and Own It Communications. A few housekeeping matters before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you tomorrow, along with the PowerPoint for today's presentation, so be on the lookout for those. If you just can't wait, you can download it right now from the Handouts tab of your GoToWebinar panel. But I'd also like to draw your attention to the questions tab. Casey would be happy to take your questions, so don't hesitate to write them in as they come to you. And one last thing, with all of the extra video conferencing going on over GoToWebinar, we've been noticing they've been having some struggles scaling up to all the extra load. So you may experience some audio or visual issues during the webinar. If that's the case, feel free to sign off. Everyone who registered, including you, will be getting a recording of today's presentation, so you can watch that and you won't miss a thing. So with all that out of the way, let's get things started. Casey?
Thank you, Vinny, and welcome everyone. Again, welcome to From Worried to Wow. How to own the virtual room and deliver a standout presentation easily and expertly. And you know, I would really be remiss, I would say, if I didn't talk about why we're here in the first place. We are dealing with something that we've never dealt with before, or we wouldn't even be here together today on a virtual presentation talking about how we can do it better. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, right? I don't have to tell you this. I'm here just calling out the elephant in the room. A month ago, I was in sunny Houston, Texas. We were flying on airplanes, and today I can't walk to the end of my driveway without wearing a mask and gloves. So things have certainly shifted. They've certainly changed. Sometimes, don't you feel as though the rules from day to day are changing on you? And we want to play by the rules, but everything's topsy-turvy. We're here just doing the best that we can. So I'm curious, I want to know about you. Has any of this happened to you in the past few days? Has your business been adversely affected by the impact of COVID-19? Tell us yes or no. And we'll leave it open for a few more seconds. I don't think this one should take a long time to answer. Giving you 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go ahead and close that out. Let's see what that looks like. We can publish the poll.
Sorry, it was about 90% yes, 10% no.
Wow, okay, 90% yes. Okay, so that's really just about everybody who's here. Okay, that's pretty much standard with what I'm seeing and hearing. And just wait until I put all of these up. You'll see them on your screen. I've been talking to industry leaders. These are some of the things that are affecting them. Canceled events, especially if you're an event planner. All of your events have been canceled, moved to the fall. It's going to be a pretty incredible September with all that's going on. Some have lost clients or they've postponed. Worst thing that they can do is ask for their money back. Maybe they've given you a deposit towards future work and they're saying, doesn't look like it's going to happen. Could we have our money back? What about prospecting? We're all in sales, right? So it's really hard to know what's okay to do right now, what's not okay. We know we need to be sensitive and empathetic, and that those really hardcore sales techniques are not going to fly today. Sales activity. Well, I'm sure that you're a business owner, you're prospecting, you're looking at your forecast. What's happened to the forecast since this has broken, right? Your sales activity or your pipeline might be low. Hopefully it's not gone, but I do know some individuals in the speaking industry and their business has gone. Your role at work may have shifted. Maybe you're doing more with fewer resources and you've had to take on things like delivering the presentation for the boss or being the one to stand in the front of the virtual room. A lot of us are dealing with that in terms of leading our teams. We're having to do more. And what if you're just plain worried? So if any of these apply to you, go ahead and let us know, type a yes or type an N. And we'll wait a few seconds and Vinny will tell me what we are seeing. What does that look like, and how has your business been adversely affected? Vinny, is this affecting any of the people who are here with us today?
Yeah, this is the 90%, 10%.
Still, 90-10 split, incredible. Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on. So a lot of us are sitting in our home, our new makeshift home offices, and we're saying, what now? What am I supposed to do? With in-person events that are canceled, it's truly a different landscape than it was 45 days ago. And what you're seeing is that more businesses have jumped online than ever before. Some businesses, unfortunately, were going to come out of this and they're going to disappear. Others, however, are going to have their best year yet. And that's why I'm here with you today, because I want to help you have your best year. This is tough stuff, folks. We've never lived through this before, but I'm concerned we're Jersey strong, which means that we can pivot and we can employ and deploy our skills in a different way. What's really critical about that is you need to stay relevant. And there are so many unknowns. And right now, a lot of business that I've been speaking with are making decisions on their hard assets like business continuity. Well, the business continuity plan is already in place, or they're looking at forecasts. This past week, the big buzzword was PPP, that payroll protection plan, and making sure that you had enough money to pay your staff. And then the relationship with your bank came into play because it was a lot of times up to the bankers to disperse those funds. And then what about talent? Some of you, unfortunately, have had to downsize. I'm a volunteer at my local art museum, and sadly, 2 weeks ago, they had to downsize by a huge percentage, and there's just a small staff now that are helping to keep things going, making sure that the lights are on, the air cooling system is working, just keeping it going until we can reopen. So I say all this to say and to reinforce for you that soft skills are needed more now than ever before. You need to step up as a leader, and your clients need your help now. You need to show up as your best self, as your best you. And one of the ways that you can do that is the way in which you communicate. Communication is critical. Your words are so important, and the way that you deliver them really matters. Now, right now, the main choice that we have, the best choice to communicate, is virtually. Sure, you can pick up the phone, and I've heard some folks say, hey, I'm just picking up the phone and calling people. That's great too. And if you want to make a bigger impact, have a bigger connection, go ahead and jump on and do it virtually. So we all know that coronavirus has disrupted our work lives, and we've got no choice but to rely heavily, more heavily on technology to work with and connect with each other. So who am I? It's really great to be here with you today, and a lot of you don't know me. I know Kate, and thank you for introducing me, Kate. I was on the senior leadership team with companies such as Aetna, Cigna, Emblem Health. I've got a 30-year background in corporate sales. I've led a team, I've done a lot of training, and I'm an adult learning specialist. And what that means to you is I am very familiar with and acquainted with frictionless ways to help adults learn. It really is important, and it's more critical now as we're in this virtual arena that we're playing in. How we structure our messages, our meetings, our communication is absolutely critical. We have to do it in a way that keeps people focused, keeps them engaged. And that's what I do with my clients. My work applies behavioral science along with adult learning, and I use those principles, many of which are rooted in brain-based science, so that we can have more productive and more effective meetings, so that your programs, when you go to deliver them, are actually streamlined. They hang together well, and people are not only engaged, they like it. They're looking forward to it. I'm the founder and CEO of Speak and Own It Communications, and I work with emerging leaders to elevate their confidence through speaking. This way you can command the boardroom. You're comfortable, you're confident when you're standing up there, be it in your kitchen, which is now many of our home offices, you can own your seat at the table and really drive the direction of the organization. And that's what people come to me for, to help them do. I help them speak, to lead, and now the pivot is doing it virtually, because that's our primary medium right now. Here's a couple of the companies that I've worked for: Emblem, Aetna, Sunrise, Insignia. And why me? Why am I delivering this? Well, that's a picture of me when I was about 16 years old. I am the least likely person I can think of to deliver work like this. I grew up an incredibly shy and scared kid. I am a reformed wallflower. I'm a big introvert, and I got to tell you, fellow introverts in the house, we know that this is not something that just goes away. Once an introvert, always an introvert. So having to run meetings and network and be on can be very exhausting and draining if you are wired in that way. So you have to learn to manage your energy. But I spent a lot of my career being absolutely petrified in meetings, scared to death that someone was going to call on me and I wasn't going to have the answer, or that I would fumble my words, or that I would make a fool of myself. And after a while, I said, this is no way to go about being a career. This is actually keeping you from being a good leader. And I taught myself essential communication skills that really let me just grab attention and command the entire room when I spoke. And that's what I teach my clients to do today, so that you're indelibly impactful. And I can help you do that. So let's take a quick poll. I want to learn more about you and your love or not love of public speaking. Do you enjoy in-person public speaking? So this might be running a meeting. It could be speaking at a conference, being on a panel. I looked at some of the survey responses you sent me. Thank you very much. And I noticed that a lot of you do speaking to groups of one or many. So let's see, do you like it? Let's see what you had to say. Can we go ahead and publish the poll? And oh, good. So more of you like it than not. Okay, that's very encouraging. I like that. Let's close that and go ahead and move on. Next question is, do you enjoy presenting virtually, online? What we're doing now, but imagine you as being the presenter instead of me. Let's go ahead and pop that poll up and see what people have to say. Do you like presenting virtually? Yes or no? This should be an easy one. We'll give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's close that out, please. All right. Okay, so we've got more who don't like it than do, but 45-55 split. Okay, thanks for that. Let's move on. All right, so here's where we're going. By the end of this masterclass today, you're going to have some techniques that will help you organize your content. You'll be able to organize it in a way that your audience stays with you. Maximum engagement. Even in this world of distractions by the minute, they really are by the minute, because we're working from home, anything can happen. I will also teach you 3 essentials that you need to know to prepare anytime you're going to do a virtual presentation. These are things that most people don't even think of. They pretty much, they've got their presentation or their handout and they jump online, but I want to prepare you for more success. And you're going to utilize some techniques that help you relax and come off as an experienced pro, even if you haven't really done this very often before 45 days ago. So that's for the people who are doing this. By the end of today, certainly, you'll be a lot more comfortable. You will have some things that you can implement right away. And if today isn't enough, I'm having a virtual event next Friday. You're invited. You'll see how you can join at the end, and we can actually take a deeper dive on some of the things that you're learning today. So that way you'll get to see how this content rounds out. Okay, here's where we're going. We just did introduction, agenda. We're going to talk about content and delivery, which are the two main critical pieces that must be in place anytime you're doing a presentation. The way you'll engage with me, as you already know, is I like for this to be interactive. So there is a chat, which I understand you all use for technical issues, but Q&A at the end. So if there are any questions, go ahead and type those in there. I'll leave plenty of time at the end so that we can get your questions answered for you. All right, let's talk about content. Content would be the what and how, and you notice this long and winding road. All right, why do I have that up there? Well, first of all, when you think about you as a participant in a meeting or a workshop or a seminar, it's really important for you to know, where are we going with this, right? Where are we going? What's the intention of this presentation? And you sitting in your chair in the audience, the main thing you want to know is WIIFT. What's in it for them? Or WIIFM? What's in it for me? In other words, you want to start with the big picture so that your learners, your audience can follow a clear path. They'll stay with you, and you are responsible as the speaker for making connections to your key points. You can't always assume that people will follow along with you. They should know this. Not necessarily. So you want to help them along. Don't bury your lead. I think this is a journalism reference. When you're writing, the lead is your headline. It's your main important point. So don't bury it. You want to put your main point right up front and streamline your approach to what I like to call the Bluff Method. BLUF stands for bottom line up front. Now, I wish I were smart enough to think of this, I were clever or witty enough to think of this. It actually is a technique used by the US Army, and you know how efficiently they get things done, right? So it stands again for bottom line up front. And the reason why we use it is because you've got to get to the point. In person, 7 seconds to grab someone's attention and impact their audience. How many seconds do you think you have virtually? So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put that in your poll. How many seconds do you think you've got? And let me give you a little context with this. This is if you're looking at a website. If you're looking at a website, you're browsing, you make a split second decision. Am I going to stay and see what else is here, or am I going to click away? So I don't know. Let's see if we've got a poll for that, or.
So people have been submitting it through the questions tab.
Perfect.
And we have 3 seconds.
Okay.
Somebody else says 3 to 4.
3 to 4. Okay, great. Any more?
4.
All right. You guys are good. You must peruse a lot of websites like me.
Getting a lot of 3, 3.5, and 4.
Okay. You actually have a little longer on a website. So generally speaking, the average person will look at a website and about, they'll peruse it a little bit. 10 seconds, they'll decide whether they're going to stay or go. Email. What about an email? Now, let me give you context around email. It's the headline. So we all know how many emails we get in a day, right? Some of us are getting a couple of hundred. You're looking really quickly to decide, am I going to act on this now, later, or am I going to put it in the trash bin? How many seconds do you think you're taking to do that? I'll give you a moment. Okay, what are we seeing?
I got 5 and I got 1.
Okay. It's right in the middle, actually. You've got 2.7, almost 3 seconds to scan a headline. So we're not wasting a lot of time before we make a decision Am I going to engage with this content or am I not? Which means you've got to get to the point. So here's a further illustration of how you might use the Bluff method for your very next meeting, your very next presentation. This helps you get to your main point fast. I mean, you are literally putting the point that you want to make in your first sentence or in your first paragraph. So what does this do for your reader or your listener? Well, first of all, they don't have to work so hard to figure out where are we going with this. You know, we've all been in those meetings where we're sitting there and we're saying, I'm not quite sure where this is going. So you don't want your listeners or your audience to have to go through that. Tell them right up front, information closer to the top, closer to the start is better understood. Then you can go ahead and flesh out your main points and use transitions to connect your points. So if you look at my graphic on the left side of your screen, right in the very beginning, you're going to use that bottom line up front. Then you might have your point 1, 2, 3, and your conclusion. All throughout, you're going to weave in transitions. You're going to tell your listeners where you're going and give them the context. Why is this important? Why do they care about this with respect to the big picture? And yes, you do this with every single point because that's the glue that helps your presentation hang together. So believe me, this is the first thing that most people never even consider when they do a presentation. They may have some elements of this in there. They might have first 1.2.3, but rarely do you see someone tie it all together, give the big picture, and give the context. I say that sometimes context is more important than content, because if you can set for me appropriately why this is important, what my role is, and what's the big picture, guess what? I'm all in. You made it easy for me. All right, here are some practical examples for you. The top examples are what we should not do. And you can see just by looking at them that they're wordy, that they take a long time. They're going all the way around the bush before they get to the point. I'll read the first one for you. Here is my report. You'll see that we took extra precautions to interview and survey many top executives in order to arrive at our conclusions. We'll share the recommendations in the body of the report. Well, what if you were to just bluff it and say, this report details our survey results. I recommend that you select Plan A. So if I'm a busy leader and I get the second example here, the one that's shorter, thank you so much. I know exactly what you want me to look at. You've highlighted it for me, and we can have a much more productive meeting than if I have to wade through a lot of text. Let's look at another one. Here we're talking about giving Michelle a promotion. So all the Michelles in the house, woohoo! The team met on Thursday. I'm more convinced now than ever. I've got a chance to see her in action with her team time and time again. Let's promote Michelle to vice president. Well, why don't we just get to the point and say the team met on Thursday. I'm more convinced now than ever. Let's go ahead and promote Michelle. So, bottom line up front, you've now got some solid examples as to what to do with your own communications, because I know that some of you have meetings next week. So, to summarize this, what do the good examples have in common? Well, the call to action, in other words, that's what you want someone to do as a result of having either heard your presentation or read your memo, right? Call to action. It's right there. You're telling them what your recommendation is. The lead is not buried. The listener understands your intention and they get that. What's in it for me? Why they should pay attention? Everybody's busy. Wouldn't you say that you're busier now that you're working from home? I don't know about you. Sometimes I'm on 7 or 8 of those Zoom meetings a day. It's incredible. So people are busy. Help them out. This is efficient and it is effective. All right, ready to move on? I know you are. Let's go. Now let's talk about delivery. So we've just come from the land of content We're going into delivery. Why? Because in the beginning, I told you that every effective presentation really looks at both your content and your delivery. You can't do a really stellar job without those two key elements. So let's go to delivery. Now, something for you to think about. You've got some inherent challenges anytime that you're delivering a presentation. Think about yourself as a participant. You get there, you've got your laptop or your notebook, your desktop, you've got your pad, you've got your pen, you've got really good intentions for sticking with it, right? But we've got internal distractions that cause the mind to wander. I like to call it the monkey mind. You know, anybody who does a mindfulness practice, you know what I'm talking about. You're sitting there trying to meditate and your mind is jumping from topic to topic. It's hard to slow that thing down. So we're now working right where we live and we're thinking, I got to do this, I got to do that. After this meeting, I got to put a pot of coffee on, I got to do the laundry. Oh my gosh, I got to make sure that Sarah is okay with, watching Frozen in the other room. It's crazy. So be aware, just be aware that your participants are very much like you are. We can't help it, we're human. I thought this Facebook meme was absolutely hysterical. This is a diagram of a Zoom meeting, okay? And imagine that the entire circle would be if you were able to pay 100% attention to the meeting. But you can see from this example, this poor person only paid attention about 2% of the time, and they benefited from about 2% of the content. Why? Because they were trying to get their cat off the keyboard or moving the kids out of the bedroom or thinking, oh, wow, that's an interesting foyer in my colleague's home there. Or they were saying, OMG, why didn't I take a shower? I look a mess. Has my neck always looked like that? You get the point. We can be incredibly distracted. And if you're tired, it's even worse. So WFH is now the new buzzword. Have you noticed? If you get a lot of online solicitations like I do from clothing places like Ann Taylor or Chico's or wherever, they're all talking about WFH, work from home. Before this happened, some of us reported to offices and workplaces that looked like this. You went to a physical building, perhaps, or a physical structure. This happens to be Park Avenue in New York City. I miss it dearly. I know we'll get back there again. Now, the reality of working from home looks more like this, where dad's got the laptop on the kitchen table and the kids are sitting right there with dad. So that's what the reality is, and it leads me to my second point. The second thing that most people really don't consider when they're designing an online presentation is that humans have monkey minds. Yes, we do. So just know that. And your job is to connect with and engage with these participants, with us. You've got to amuse us. So when you're teaching, you want to make it informational and you want to entertain. Give them infotainment. You want to attract them with, shaking up the way that you present your content and reward them. Because it takes a lot more energy to engage people through a screen. I'm sure some of you are doing this. You're leading your own meetings from your home offices, and you might come off of a meeting and you say, my God, I'm exhausted. Why is this so tiring? Or even as a participant, learning through a screen takes a lot more focused energy. You're looking at something in 2 dimensions, and your mind, your brain is actually working harder to process those images. So here's what you need to know as someone who's going to be leading these meetings. You have to make it more engaging and less lecture, or they're going to get bored and they're going to check out. So encourage the chat as we've been doing today. Very often it's a stream of consciousness. If you use a different, if you use other, other platforms where you can actually leave the chat open and people can talk to each other, let me tell you, it can mean a lot because They're crying for connection right now. People are so happy to see each other because we're not going out into the workplace anymore. We're not driving in our cars or getting on New Jersey Transit for going to work. Something else you can do when you have a virtual presentation is you can actually ask your participants a question and have them write and hold up their answer on a sticky note. So if you have a platform that lets you use a gallery view, you can say, all right, I'm going to switch the view, and everybody write a big Y for yes or an N for no and hold it up. Well, if you get them doing that, they're not going to have a lot of time to be multitasking or checking their mail or even getting up out of their chair to get a coffee. They're going to sit in their seats. So do you like these? If you like these ideas, give me a big thumbs up right now, right into your camera. Terrific. All right, here are some other techniques that your technology will let you use to manage that monkey mind. You can do polls. You can pop up a chat box, a whiteboard. Virtual breakout rooms are fun because what they do is they take a large group and actually break them down into smaller groups of participants so you can get people collaborating on something. They can work together. And in their rooms, if they use a whiteboard, they can actually take notes and then come back into the main room and report out to you. You can change the pace. You can slow things down, or you can speed it up to make sure that they're still with you and that they're still engaged. If they don't know what you're going to do next, they're going to stick with you. It's when your presentation is pretty monotone or it's pretty even keel that they think, okay, well, this is a perfect time to go ahead and put the kettle on and make some tea because the way this person's talking. No, you want to keep it brisk and keep them focused. You can ask questions and tell stories. Challenge them and reward them. You can reward them by saying, hey, thank you so much. That's an excellent contribution. Let's make a note of that. Giving them those verbal accolades goes a long way. Involve them. And I don't know how many of you have seen this fantastic quote by Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. I learned this when I was a learning and development professional, this quotation by Benjamin Franklin, because it really harkens to what we have to do when we're running our meetings, or even if we're training people. The minute that you get someone involved and they're maybe doing a part of the presentation, or you're workshop it, or if you have Q&A or hot seats, they're really going to have some takeaways. But if you're just talking at them, we called it chalking and talking, they're going to forget. And it's not going to be a memorable learning experience for them at all. And these are some of the things that when I work more closely with clients, I make sure that they have many of these elements in their presentations so that they hit the ball out of the park. I mentioned the gallery view. So if you have a platform that enables this, you can see people, you can see everybody. And that helps promote engagement, especially since we really are social beings. And we're having a little bit of a hard time right now because we're not really supposed to be socializing in person. So that was the second thing that a lot of us don't really even think about before we get online. Let's move to the third, which is ever so important. And I would say even the most critical, more important than your content, more important than your delivery, more important than even setting the context, is managing your environment, your presence, and your mind. Oh my goodness. So let's first talk about your environment. Yeah, you've heard the expression, the camera doesn't lie. Well, I'm saying the same thing here, but I'm saying it nicer. Is that your device or your laptop camera tells the truth, doesn't it? So what does your webcam say about your environment? Is it neat? Is it messy? Is it busy? Is there a whole lot of stuff going on? I ask you this because we're now in a new level of intimacy where we're really in each other's homes. I was on a virtual summit last night. Well, I wasn't one of the presenters, but I was participating. I was in an audience of one of 3,000 that had attended the summit. And one of the presenters was, I guess, filming from their bedroom, and you could see things folded in the background. And I think that if this person had given a little more thought to it, they may have made the space look different, bearing in mind that you're going to be in camera now, and you're now essentially inviting people in to where you live. So again, it's a new level of intimacy. Consider that as you stage your speaking space. Stage that environment. You can actually put your camera on before you go live and see what the camera is looking at. So that way there are no surprises for you. Like, oops, I didn't know they could see that. We don't want that. We don't want the oops. And we don't want anything that's going to overly distract the listeners, right? Because they've got a monkey mind. So on Zoom, there's actually a mirror feature that enables you to do that. So if your home office looks like this, hey, look, no judgment. I'm a creative person. I tend to be really scattered and messy. But if it does look like that, you can use a virtual background, or you can use a screen, very much like the one that you see right behind me today, which looks nice, it's attractive, and it's not going to distract those participants. Don't forget, they're just looking for a reason to check. When they realize that they've checked out, they say, oh my goodness, I just missed 5 minutes of this. I was daydreaming. What happened? Get your technology to work for you. Lighting is absolutely critical. And on a day like today, it happens to be a bit cloudy and overcast. If room that is dependent upon natural light to light the room, you're going to want to get some help. I use a ring light. You can see it on the left-hand side of the screen there, RING, and they make them so that they can also hold your phone or your device. It's absolutely critical. And on the right side is a green screen. You don't have to get that fancy if you don't want to. I just think it's helpful. Sometimes the virtual backgrounds can be fun, but be careful using them for meetings or professional settings. If it's a nice buttoned up meeting, you don't want your background to be a little bit crazy. You want to have a background that is in keeping with the tone of the meeting. Here's a good way to reduce distractions, some do's and don'ts, quick do's and don'ts for you. Watch your lighting. I did say that was important. So too much light, too little light. If you backlight yourself or silhouette yourself, it's going to be distracting, and your audience is going to be focused more on the lighting than on your message. If your personal background is busy or distracting. Also, if you are a meeting participant and you're dialing in on your phone, be careful about moving around, especially if everyone is looking at you in a gallery view. Everyone else will be still, but there's that one person that's constantly moving around, or they're sitting on the couch and then they get up and they start walking around. That's going to be very distracting. So are your words. So if you are the presenter and you're, hey, yeah, well, yeah, so, right. Well, what I really want to say is be careful of your habit words. Try to eliminate them altogether, because what we say and do on the screen is magnified. Kids' photos. Think about privacy. If you have young children, you may want to move the photos so that they're not visible in the shot. So here are some do's. Those were the don'ts. Here's what you should do. Do look into the camera. I actually have my laptop raised about 4 inches. I'm not tall. I'm only about 5 feet tall. I'm sitting on a pillow. It's raised so that my gaze can look right into the camera, not at the screen. This is the camera. This is the screen. There is a big difference. Know your content well enough so that all you have to do is glance at this screen and then engage with the lens. Make sense? Your laptop, the height of your laptop should really be right around your hairline. It's going to feel like it's high. Believe me, it's not. It's going to be perfect. So you want to position yourself so you're in the middle of the frame. We should see part of your shoulders, a little bit of your torso, not just a talking head. If all your head and maybe your neck, you need to raise your laptop so that we can see more of the top part of your body. 3-point lighting is terrific. I've got 3 lights here today. You can't see them. They're off camera, but it brings more lighting into my face, and you want that. Oh, here's a big one. Monitoring the bandwidth usage in your house. So let's say you've got a big important meeting and it's at 3 o'clock. Tell the kids, tell everybody, hey guys, I might need you to shut down for an hour while I have this really important meeting. Because the last thing you want are bandwidth issues and to get shut down, or the problems with the video. You don't want that. So head it off at the pass. As I said, the screen magnifies everything that you say and do. You're not in a big conference room where we have a lot of room to move and your gestures are spacious. This is a small screen, maybe 12 inches wide, and I can, like looking at someone on a TV, you really notice what they say and do. So that's why habit words, you want to dial those down. Reduce distractions, whether you are leading or participating in that meeting. So here's some what not to do. Oh my gosh. You can see that in the first shot, the light is terrible. The second one, my face is off center. There I'm backlit. Sometimes people have their office and there's a window behind them. That might not work for recording your video. So, and in the shot here on the right, the lighting is uneven. So check out your shot before you go live. Make sure that it looks nice and clean and neat and that the lighting is good. We're starting to come down to the end now, and I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that it really helps you. The last thing that I want to talk about is managing your mind. First of all, have a positive expectation of success. You're going to do well. You're going to do just fine. In public speaking, did you know that your audience is on your side? Did you know that your audience wants you to do well? They do. It's no different just because we've gone virtual. So, one thing you can certainly do is ground and center yourself before you even begin. I know that there are a lot of you here who have wellness practices. You do yoga, you might do Tai Chi. Every relaxation, calming, or meditation practice relies on breathing, relies on the breath. I like to do this exercise where I breathe in calm, exhale confidence, breathe in calm, exhale confidence. Just by slowing the breath, you calm the system. So doing yoga, meditation, Tai Chi or Qigong are excellent practices that help with the breath and the mindset. And I would say before you have to deliver a high stakes presentation, do one of those things. It will help to relax you. We jam so much into the brain all day long that when you give it a break and you allow it to breathe, it really does a lot for your psyche. Breathing and that break actually scientifically affect the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the system that tells you that you're safe, that makes you relax, it gets you calm, and that deep breathing actually dials down the sympathetic nervous system. That's the one like, oh my God, where's the meeting? I'm going to miss a train. You don't want that kind of frantic energy when you're presenting. So you're the one in control. Remember that. You're in control. Deep breathing calms the mind. Manage your physiology, right? Manage the mind. Tell it, hey, 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 I'm in control, and right now we're going to be calm. And I always like to say, you are the best person at the best time to be leading this presentation. You've got this. See? There's your beautiful Lotus Blossom. You've got this. All right. So I promised you when we started that by the end of this master class, because that is what this was, it was a master class, you'd be able to organize your content for maximum impact. And the tool I gave you for that was Bluff, bottom line up front, right? And with that, Bluff, you would be able to apply techniques for high audience engagement, even though we are so terribly, terribly distracted. By the minute, there's a new distraction, right? And some of the things that the techniques were using the chat, using breakout rooms, gallery view, right? Making people feel that even though we're online, we are still in this virtual event together. I promised you that you would know 3 essentials to prepare before even getting online. These are things that most people don't even think of. The Bluff content, right? Bottom line up front was one example. The fact that people have monkey minds and you've got to do everything possible to keep them engaged, to keep them with you, and to manage your presence, environment, and mind. Those are the 3 things. And that by using these, of course, it takes some practice, but you can relax and come off like an experienced pro. There is no need to let this make you nervous. So if you enjoyed today at all, please, I ask you to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. You'll find me under Casey Carpenter 1, Speak and Own It Communications. And if you'd like the companion ebook, it's good you're getting the slides. If you'd like a companion ebook that goes with this presentation, you can go to speakandownit.com. Now, I also mentioned that I am going to do a deeper dive on this content, and I'm inviting you. If you'd like to come, there's a URL at the bottom of your screen. So this is for someone, if you've got something upcoming, you've got a virtual presentation coming up, maybe it's high stakes, and you're feeling, oh my gosh, I got to nail this. I haven't done a lot of this. I'm a little nervous. I want to get it right because, you know, my boss is going to be looking. That would be a perfect opportunity for you to get a deeper dive on this content. So if you need more insight, you'd like more insight, and to really see, okay, how can I be more effective with my content or delivery? I'm going to be here next Friday, and I'm inviting all my friends, and you are invited too. 12 noon, it's going to be complimentary, and there is a URL right at the bottom of your screen that will take you to an Eventbrite page. You can go ahead and sign up there, and we'll see each other again next week. I'm wondering if it's possible to put that in the chat. I will, maybe when we open it up, I'll see if I can type it in there myself, and that way it'll make it easy for you to go ahead and sign up, and I'll see you there.
We can also send that out in the email that everyone will get after the webinar.
I think that's perfect. So that way you can go ahead and join me next week. And with that, why don't we go ahead and open up for questions?
You got it, Casey. We have some questions already, but I'd like to give everyone a minute just to write in anything they have. While I'm doing that, I'll take a second to remind everyone about the Handouts tab. I get a lot of questions about how to download the PowerPoint slides, and they're right there. You just opened up Handouts in your GoToWebinar panel, and you can download them right now. You can also just wait until tomorrow, and they'll be emailed to you along with the video recording and the link that Casey was just referring to. So with all that out of the way, we'll get right to our first question that asks, what online LMS platform are you using?
This is GoToWebinar.
Is that generally what you prefer?
Pardon?
Is that generally what you prefer?
You know, I use Zoom. I have to tell you, I'm not very good with technology. I'm getting better, and I do work hard at it, and I do practice. For me, Zoom works because it's really super simple and it's easy for me to get participants on there. I like what we're using today though, because you've got the added features of being able to easily download the materials. But I mean, this is is it GoToWebinar, Vinny?
Yeah, this is GoToWebinar.
GoToWebinar. So that's what we're using today. Thank you. Next question.
Okay, so the next one is, what exactly does the green screen do that you recommend with the ring light?
What the green screen can do for you is give you a variety of backgrounds. So it has to be green because actually, this is what they do when they make movies and they have action shots. They'll put a green screen behind the actors, and what it does, I guess it gives it a uniform background so that later they can come in post-production and superimpose the background that they want people to see. So if I were using my green screen right now, I could use a variety of different backgrounds. I could put my logo behind me, or I could, I have virtual cocktail hours with my girlfriends on Saturday night. I could throw up a little background that looks like we're in a bistro. So it's fun, it's playful. For a business environment, though, you might want to use it judiciously. You have to really think about the kind of meeting that you're leading. But that's what I like to use it for. And it can hide a messy background. Sometimes we can't always run around and pick up the kids' toys. We've got a meeting that starts, we've got to be on there.
Yeah, I would love to buy that screen you have behind you. While you were asking that, somebody asked how they changed the background in Zoom.
What you do is there is I wonder if I can go back to that screen. Would that be helpful to you, that slide rather?
There's an icon at the bottom that says stop video. We're not in
Yes.
Zoom now, so don't look for it
Right.
here. And then there's a
Yes,
settings button in there that takes you to what she has on her screen now.
that's exactly right. And so there would be a settings button. It looks like a little carrot, and not the carrot that you eat, C-A-R-A-T. It's like like the head of an arrow. You click on that, and this is what you would see. So if you've got a green screen, you could then choose from a variety of different backgrounds. So sometimes it's fun if you're having a team meeting, you want to lighten things up a little bit. Maybe you have a team meeting on a Friday like we always did in sales. So you make it fun, you lighten things up a little bit. It's creative. That's what I like about it.
So I have a couple questions from people asking if you have recommendations for microphones.
Microphones. You know what? I don't. A lot of my speaker colleagues use something called a Blue Yeti, Y-E-T-I, Blue Yeti microphone. I have not yet invested in it. I don't do podcasts, but you never know what's in the future. But that's one that I understand is very good. But honestly, I'm using the microphone that is with my laptop.
I have a question here that asks, do you recommend attempting hand gestures, or is it better to keep your hands off of the video?
Good question. And even when we're speaking live, it can be distracting. So if you're gesturing and your gestures aren't high enough, they're not going to be effective. And it might just look like nervous energy. So if you're gesturing, they need to be high enough so that the camera can see what you're doing. I'm finding it's not as necessary to gesture a lot on camera. Although I'm a very animated person, I do move around a bit, which is probably better than being a talking figurehead with no animation whatsoever. So you might have to play around with it. What I would recommend is if you're doing a presentation yourself, record yourself. So try it with and try it without, and then play them back and see which you prefer. It may take some practice, but it's definitely doable.
Here's one that asks, how do techniques vary with short presentations, like a 5 to 7 minute speech versus a long presentation like a 60 to 90 minute webinar?
I'm not quite sure what they mean by techniques.
So is there anything you would do differently to prepare or to present?
No, I would do the same things. The duration of the presentation doesn't matter.
Actually, this is a related question that just came in. How do you balance being short and to the point without coming across unprepared?
Oh, I think they're two different things. Short and to the point means to me, in my world, that I understand you as the listener, as the audience. I understand what you need. So because I care about delivering you value, I'm going to get to the point right away. Unprepared means I have no idea. I'm disorganized. I'm fumbling for words. I'm all over the place. I mean, I'm even using my eyes right now to demonstrate that. So unprepared to me is something completely different. People appreciate you getting to the point. And yes, I agree, there are different communication styles. There's a style that's a little bit more friendly. They like to engage in communication, talk beforehand. Some are like, okay, give me the bottom line. We don't have a lot of time to waste. I get that. And yet, because the time is so compressed working from home, it's actually doing them a service that you get to the point and then give them the option. Hey, all right, this is my objective. I'm going to get right to the point here. And then if you want to talk this through a little bit more on the back end, we can do so.
So you mentioned the inverted pyramid with the most important stuff on top and then, going out to your conclusion at the bottom. One
Yes.
of our attendees is asking, the evening news uses part of the news story, but no bottom line to increase interest, kind of giving you a teaser to kind of get you to listen longer. Does this conflict with your approach of putting the return on investment up front?
You know what? This is funny. This is funny to me because I don't watch news, but I think I get where they're going with this. That is really all about the teaser to keep you watching. So that's not the same thing as doing a meeting or a presentation, is it? Because you certainly need, your presentation needs to go somewhere. It needs to have a conclusion. It needs to have transitions that lead in a logical flow to a logical conclusion. So in my mind, those are really two different things. We know why they do that on the news. They'll give you a teaser of something at the top of the hour. You're dying to hear that story. Where is it? Where is it? They may not get to it to the bottom of the hour because they want to keep you there watching. The two different things.
It's always the way. So what are your thoughts on dressing up versus being casual?
If you're doing an online presentation, I would guess dress up. Enough said. Now,
And then the next question from the same person asked, wearing headphones versus speaking on a speakerphone.
Speakerphone. I'm gathering they mean using the what do you call it? The one that's built into the
Computer audio.
computer. Those are fine. Computer audio is fine. I'm using that right now. Some people like headphones, and some like to wear the earbuds. I have a friend who is a little bit hard of hearing. He needs to wear the earbuds so that he can hear you, and he needs to see you so that he can read your lips. I think it's a matter of personal preference.
Our next question asks, do you like the option for blurring the background as your background screen?
Yes. Yes. Especially if you are presenting from an office where you might have sensitive data behind you or sales numbers. I go back to sales. You don't really perhaps want the people who are in your presentations to see that. So blur it. Yeah, they don't have to see the details.
Okay, we have one here. I am going on a high-stakes virtual interview on Tuesday. I believe that the concepts you discussed today will be helpful. Do you suggest anything else?
A high stakes. Well, here's what I do to prepare for an interview, and I'm sure this person has done this. I'd like to talk to them more offline about this because what I'm saying may be redundant. And without a back and forth dialogue, I don't want to be redundant. But certainly research them on LinkedIn. Get to know as much as you can about what's important to them, their charities, where they've worked. Try to get some insight as to this particular role what might be really critical for you to be able to do. I go, let's see, what else do? I research the company as well online. I like to see if this person has appeared in any news articles. There's a website called you'vegotthenews.com, YOU''VE, You've Got the News, or is it Who's Got the News? It might be Who's Got the News, where it is a repository for small newspapers. So if this person has come up in the news, you'll have some insight about what they're like, what are their passions, do they support the local museum, what are their charities? Just maybe something you can sprinkle in conversation or bring up that you have in common. It might help to break the ice. I'd love to talk more with you offline because I don't know if that's helpful, and I'd like to know a little bit more about your unique situation.
So we're at the end time hour, but we have one more question, so I want to
Sure.
sneak it in.
Yes.
So do you have any tips for making Zoom meetings or presentations easier for older populations and special needs populations?
Zoom, in my humble opinion, it really is the easiest. So I don't know what else you could do to. I mean, and I don't know if this question is helping them get onto the platform, helping them navigate the platform, but perhaps walking them through on the phone before you go live might be helpful. If they've got more than one device, or if somebody else is on the other end and can help them get onto Zoom, then that might be helpful. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know that I really answered that question very well.
It's okay. I think getting the phone call ahead of time works. I had to do one with my dad, and yeah, that was a challenge. But we walked him through it ahead of time, and everything went great.
Yeah, I've
So,
become the family person who gets all of them all together on Zoom, and I've got a cousin who's 80. So his 50-year-old son was there with him, helping him get onto the platform, and sometimes that does help.
yeah. All right. So that's about all the time we have. So it's as good a time as any to bring things to a close. Don't forget,
Perfect.
all of you will be receiving a recording of today's webinar, along with the PowerPoint and the link that Casey was mentioning before. So
Yes.
be on the lookout for those. Our next
And please
webinar,
join me next week.
exactly. Our next webinar, Workforce Management During the Pandemic, Wage and Hour Severance Considerations, will take place Tuesday at 9 a.m. So by all means, feel free to register for that one on our website at njbia.org/webinars. So until next time, for Casey Carpenter, this is Vinny Civitello, thanking you for being with us this afternoon and wishing you a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye now.